Once upon a time, in a quiet corner of Nazareth, there stood a small, weathered stable made of stone and straw. Inside lived a humble gray donkey whose life had always been simple. His coat was dusty, his legs were thin, and his eyes carried the sadness of one who had never been chosen for anything important. Every morning he would wake before sunrise, stretch his aching limbs, and walk to the watering trough, listening to the world come alive around him. The soft bleating of sheep, the distant bark of a dog, and the chatter of merchants outside the city gates. Yet none of that noise ever seemed to belong to him. He was just a quiet creature meant to carry loads for others, to walk when told, and to rest only when no one needed him. The horses in the richer stables would snort with pride as they trotted past, their manes shining, their hooves striking the ground like drums of glory. The oxen, broad and strong, were admired for their power. Even the small goats, quick and clever, had their place among the children who laughed and played. But the donkey, he was slow, plain, and easily forgotten. He often thought about what it must feel like to be admired, to be loved, to be seen as more than just a beast of burden. Sometimes, when the moonlight spilled into the stable, he would lift his head and gaze out at the stars, wondering if the heavens ever noticed creatures like him. There was a longing in his heart that words could never describe. He didn't dream of riches or rest. He dreamed of meaning, of a moment where his life might matter, even just once. Still, day after day, life remained the same. He carried baskets of grain to the market, hauled firewood up dusty hills, and stood quietly as his owner scolded him for being too slow. When his back ached, he said nothing. When the whip brushed against his side, he did not cry out. It wasn't obedience that kept him silent. It was the simple acceptance that this was his place in the world. But deep within that quiet heart, something small flickered, a stubborn ember that refused to die. It whispered to him in his loneliest moments, "You were made for more." He didn't know what more meant, and sometimes he doubted that whisper was real. Yet whenever he saw the sunrise painting the sky in gold, he felt it again, that tiny, trembling spark of purpose. He carried it like a secret, afraid that if he told anyone, even the birds that perched on the stable roof, they would laugh at him. Then one chilly morning, as the frost still clung to the ground, the donkey's life began to change. He woke to the sound of footsteps, soft, deliberate, unfamiliar. A man and a woman stood outside the stable. They didn't look like merchants or travelers. The man's face was calm, yet filled with a kind of strength the donkey had never seen before. The woman's eyes glowed with peace, though she seemed weary, as if she had walked far and carried something deep within her soul. The owner of the donkey came forward, wiping his hands on his robe. The man spoke gently, "The Lord has need of him." Those words echoed through the stable like a bell. The donkey didn't understand them, but he felt them. The woman stepped closer and placed her hand upon his head. Her touch was soft, yet something in it made his chest feel light, as though the air itself had changed. She smiled, and the donkey, for the first time in his life, lifted his head proudly. He didn't know where they were going or why they had chosen him, but he sensed something sacred about that moment. As his owner tied a rope and led him out into the cool morning light, the donkey's hooves touched the earth with new meaning. The road ahead was long and unknown, but in his heart, he carried a feeling that was greater than fear. He carried hope.